Thanks so much. 8:42. Many drivers have felt the frustration of arriving back at their car when they thought they'd parked safely and properly, and that dreaded yellow tickets on the windscreen.
Yes, in this plastic wrapper. Last year, more parking tickets were issued in the UK than ever before. Latest figures, though, show that half of the drivers who appealed to the Traffic Penalty Tribunal won their case.
In a moment, we're going to be speaking to Caroline Sheppard because her job is to decide whether drivers who appeal should pay up or be let off. First, though, let's have a look at the programme her colleagues took part in to show how they decide what's fair and what's not.
All you need to know about me really is that I'm an independent lawyer. I don't work for the council. I'm not on the council's side, if you see what I mean. Yeah. All right? Not on your side either. But I have had a good look at this. Right. And you've gone at this like a dog with a sausage, haven't you?
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, we're judicial pond life, really. We don't rank at all on the scale of things. That's all right. I've no great ambitions. I don't need to wear a wig. It's too hot.
Now, it's quite an interesting one, which doesn't interest you, but it interests me.
Now, unfortunately, I've been to the council's website and they don't have any photographic evidence available. I don't know whether that's very conveniently for them.
Don't get into conspiracies. No. And people tell the most outrageous stories sometimes. You know, the dog was sick, and then the trolley wheel, and then the bottom fell out of the bag, and then the 4-year-old needed to go to the toilet, and all of these things happen, you know. And sometimes they're telling the truth from their heart.
Well, there's one traffic penalty adjudicator with us now. The chief, they're difficult these times. Chief adjudicator from the Traffic Penalty Tribunal, Caroline Sheppard. Good morning.
Good morning.
Caroline, I tell you, you start talking about parking fines and everybody's blood pressure goes up a bit.
Absolutely, everybody's got a view about it one way or the other.
But mostly about how they were hard done by years ago.
Well, yes, everybody remembers something from way back, but lots of people hate cars as well, so there are people on both sides of this argument.
And not for many of us that far back do we have to cast our minds. I mean, is there like a main issue that people come to you with? Is it overstaying? Is it that the parking machine wasn't working? Is it that because they were on a yellow line and they didn't realise what the restrictions were?
The main issues are definitely about signs and lines. Yeah. Because people get a ticket, they have no idea why. They start looking around, they realise that they missed a sign or they didn't see it. So that's an enormous one. The other one, certainly, in terms of pay and display, they're what we call sort of fluttering tickets, where for some reason it wasn't on the dashboard or it was on the floor, or whether they had one or two at all, you know.
This raises an interesting question for lots of people. Do you have to stick it on the windscreen, or can you leave it on the dashboard?
Well, they're not really sticky anymore.
Are they not?
They used to be in days of yore, but not anymore, so you do have to put it on the dashboard. And the absolute key tip, really, is when you close the door and lock the thing, just check it's there, because that way you won't get a ticket. I mean, so many people just sort of slam the door and go off.
And then it falls on the floor.
And then, of course, the councils don't know whether you've got one or not. So, and even people who never bought one will say, well, it was on the floor. So, you know, at that point, there's a huge sort of dispute as to what actually happened. So just checking will avoid all that hassle.
So if you then have before you somebody who says, look, I paid fair and square and I did buy a ticket, and perhaps, yes, it was just, you know, on the dashboard but behind my tax disc, but you could still see it, but I still got a fine. I mean, I'm just making sort of...
Well, the thing is,
this is something that happened to me.
They're now called civil enforcement officers. This is the new CEO of our nation. And they go around, they take lots of photographs, you see. And so nearly always they take maybe sort of 6 or 7 of the dashboard from every angle. So, in fact, they're very thorough about whether it was there or not. And so they will see if there was something there.
It's a bit of a catch-22, though, oftentimes, because the council sends you get the ticket and says, well, if you pay up now, you'll pay half of what you pay if you don't. And so you're left, it's coming to you as a gamble, isn't it?
Well, that's why we probably only 5% of tickets issued sort of land up in appeals. And usually people really sort of feel about it. I mean, so many people come to us and say, look, I nearly always pay, but this one I really feel strongly about. And of course we now deal with these on the telephone as well, so it does actually make it easier for people. They don't, I mean, in the film, in the documentary tonight, you'll see actual hearings where people turn up face to face, as we saw with Maggie just then. But in fact, most of our appeals now, where people actually want to talk to the adjudicator, are done on the telephone, which is a really good way of dealing with it.
Is it fair that you would have to pay more if you challenge and lose?
Well, that's the scheme, and that's been the cornerstone of the scheme since the early 90s when they introduced it. You know, I can't be drawn on whether it's fair or not. Lots of people say that it's just an administrative convenience, but that's how it is, and I can't see it ever changing.
Is the logic then that if you didn't have that system of paying, you know, double if you do appeal, then everybody would appeal?
Then everybody would appeal, and then if everybody appealed, it would cost the councils far more to administer the scheme, and then they'd put the penalties up. So, you know, you can see the kind of different angles.
How long does the whole process take?
It can be very quick. I mean, it can take about 3 months if they actually put the ticket on the car, but the ones where they send it through the post, and again in the film tonight you'll see camera enforcement, which is a bit of a bone of contention, and also it's not like bus lanes and you receive it, you just write in to the council, you make your representations, the council, if they say no, you can immediately appeal, and we'll deal with it within 3 to 4 weeks.
Bus lanes.
Oh.
Bus lanes.
Bus lanes.
Coming out of traffic lights and suddenly turning a corner and finding yourself in a bus lane.
The signing of bus lanes is the biggest issue that we're facing, particularly outside London. In London, a bus lane tends to look like a bus lane, whereas a lot of these cities outside London, they don't necessarily look like the familiar
Sounds like you're
bus
quite
lane.
You're quite on the side of the driver when it comes to a bus lane.
Well, you know, we have to look at each location and see how reasonably assigned it was. But the key to it also, people follow their sat-navs, and the sat-navs aren't always up to date with the new regulations. So, I mean, whole new issues to be dealt with there.
Caroline, fascinating stuff. Thanks very much.
Well, thank you very much for having me.
And you can watch the documentary Parking Mad tonight. It's 10:35 on BBC One.
Well.